You know, it's a little rare to try to one-up each other in this type of a session, so I'm not sure where this theme of complication, PK is a cool initial. I guess CK for Complication King might be for me. So this is a case I'd like to present. I think I showed this before. This is the Photoshopped of Chicago. You can usually find me crying or praying right on this fourth floor window area, so come by anytime you guys want. So this is a case, it's a CLI case. This isn't brain, but this is leg. These are my world. 80s, every comorbidity that my patients in the Midwest have. The renal failures are obviously the worst. The smokers, the renal failure, the diabetics. She's had a stroke already, CHF. Luckily I able to save one leg from a major amputation about 1.5 years ago. And she now has left lower extremity wound in her forefoot on the dorsal surface. And I do wound care, so I've been manager from start to finish on this wound, and it's ischemic. We already know she is. So, after the non-invasives, to not belabor the point, said angio, let's see how bad it is. Under max sedation, because she's not a happy camper about laying flat whatsoever. So this is initial runs, not atypical for most of the operators in this kind of a meeting when you have not much of great tibial proximal patency, but distally there are some targets for us. I think most of us, we get super excited when we see this because we know we have some avenues to treat this. Tried from above for a quick minute and wasn't successful, so naturally go retrograde, and that all does fine. I had to snare it. I do a lot of micro snares for my rendezvous. I know everybody shows a nice little finger of God type thing. It doesn't always work in the calcified vessels. So I put a micro snare in the subintimal space. It works quite often. So here's the situation now. That was fine and dandy. Now we're ballooning using small balloons, whatever, 2.5. You can see this video. Here's an issue. I can't get the balloon to pass down here. I couldn't even get a catheter to pass in this area. So, esteemed panel and Mac, any idea? I can't get a support. I can't get any 014 catheter, any balloon, anything to pass over my flossed 014 wire, my externalized wire. So, what are some tips that you have? Any of you? This coronary balloon. I tried a 1.5. I tried a 1.25 apex. I tried all these. I can't get it to pass. It's heavy calcium right here. Heavy calcium you can't appreciate as much. So what have you guys used for problem solving?
You tried to pull it from below too?
I tried everything, both directions. And I don't put sheaths typically in my pedal access, but I have the 50 centimeter LP balloons. Couldn't get that to go.
I would change the wire into like heavy wire.
Yeah.
And try again with an over-the-wire balloon, small coronary 1.0.
As usual, Mac, you didn't listen to me, man. I can't get a support. I can't get any catheter. I can't get a catheter across to exchange it out.
Buddy wire.
Okay.
Transcutaneous.
Pierce technique, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. So that's actually would have been a smarter idea. I've used Pierce technique for other situations, but I've done this a few times. I think many have others. Sometimes we do a little bit of just a touch of orbital atherectomy in that calcified area at low speed, just a little jog, just to create a channel. And if you decide to use that for the rest of it, that's fine. So, I've had that situation before in this patient population. That's what I did. Now, the retrospectoscope is a little bit strong here. I typically would use a 125 micro, and as we're prepping and doing all this stuff, we put it in and realized that they gave me a 1.5, which is okay in a tibial, but maybe not for the purpose I'm doing here. So what happened was I barely spun the device, and you hear that, whoom, and it stopped. And that's happened before. Whenever you have something that stops, whenever a patient has pain, you should stop too. So I did that. So now I'm like, okay, this is not a good idea. You learn from experience. Don't push things, don't pull things too hard. So I pinned and pulled. It's not coming. So I'm pinning and pulling the CSI device. I'm holding the driver. I'm pinning and pulling. We have an up and over sheath the whole time. We have a 6 French 45 centimeter sheath up and over into the opposite common fem. So we're pinning and pulling through a flexor braided sheath. It's not coming. And I'm pinning and pulling. It's not coming. What next?
The CSI was over the non-CSI, not a Viper wire, right? You're just using regular wire.
Correct. So it's not on the hydrophilic portion of the wire. It's on the nitinol portion of the wire. It's done it many times in a very slow process. You learn things in retrospect, but so I have the device stuck. I can't get it out. You pull harder? That's what my partner, when I called, he said, pull harder. I said, I don't want to.
And you've only tried pin and pull so far. You haven't tried to pull the whole thing out, including the wire yet.
Oh, I tried, yeah.
Including the wire, everything.
Yeah, even though it's flossed, I just keep a hemostat, I'm letting it come with it, it's still not coming.
When you on it, does it work or it's not working?
Nope, you hear a little vroom, and it stops again. There's nothing. I can't get it, because sometimes you can do the glide assist and all those things.
Try like cutting the actual wire.
You can what, sorry?
Yep. So that's a technique we use when we have a coronary burst.
Yeah.
Like a
So,
mother
but
and
the
daughter.
problem is I don't know if the guideline will get down
It
there.
won't get down to a distance, where I can't even get a 014 support catheter down there, that's not going to get down there.
Would you try considering putting a sheet distally and trying to push it out down?
Yeah, so I tried that. I put the dilator of a radial sheet, a slender. Then I tried to put a sheet, the Flexor 13. I tried to push it, not going. I think
Nitro something and see if it.
I mean, we gave so much nitro, the pressure was dropping, I think. But remember, remember, this is under anesthesia, so at least I have people who actually know what they're doing watching the hymen. I mean, I'm not a cardiologist, I'm not that good at the heart, but they're watching saying, I mean, she looks okay to me. They're like, usually they tell me when something's up. Usually doing cases like, hey, is everything okay? I didn't get a single one of those. So
You couldn't get another wire and balloon that region?
I couldn't get anything through that area, and now I have a stuck device.
Device.
So I do what we always say, which is call a surgeon. I did try the Pierce technique at this point, which probably not the best time. I'm stabbing away with an 18 gauge needle, creating a nice little fountain of subcutaneous bleeding. It's great. So I called, I think he used to be my friendly colleague. I'm sure he doesn't like me anymore, but I called the surgeon and say, hey, I got the situation. It's stuck. I think the safest thing, instead of me keeping and pulling, is you just take it upstairs, cut it down. We secured everything. It's under anesthesia, which is great for me. We just secured everything, sterilely protected, and we took him straight to the OR. And I let him, do the case. And so literally, pinning and pulling didn't work, secured with the sheet the whole time, secured the wire, put the device in a bag up to the OR. This is what he found within, 10 minutes. It looks like an easy cut down for me. For him, it's probably not easy. But the device basically immediately popped out of the vessel. And that's why it was stuck. It was stuck between calcium and outside the vessel. That's why it wasn't coming. So literally from just a subtle spin, it really just popped right through. I don't know. I think maybe because it was so the wire was subminimal maybe at that point. And with the calcium there, it was a weak point, and it just popped right up. But literally, it was just like instantaneous. So, learning lesson is maybe don't try to MacGyver. But I don't know what else to do. I've done it before, and it's worked. We are doing complex patients. And so, end of story, complication done, right? That's not really the story here. So this is what the run looked like. He said, let me just do a run. And he's like, oh, it might be thrombosed. Should we lice it? I was like, you probably don't want to lice. I mean, you know better, but you probably don't want to lice it. At the same time, anesthesia is kind of saying, hey, we're having a little tough time with the pressures on the art line. Is everything okay? And we're like, the surgeon's here. He took out the device. And the device, once he cut it, came right out. And our sheath is still up and over, protected. So we're like, that's weird. Let's change the sheath out. Maybe the sheath's got a problem, because we couldn't get a good reading on the sheath either. So this is where I kind of lost everything.
Oh, whoa. Damn.
Yeah, take a look at that one.
Whoa.
So really, I wish I had a great explanation. We had a protected sheath braided up and over the whole time. The device never came by itself through the aorta arch or anything like that. So, the surgeon, my colleague, my former colleague said, he didn't want to open. He said, let me just quickly try to stent this, cover stented, he thought it was coming off the left common iliac, so quickly tried to stent it. Meantime, during this entire ordeal, she coded about 3 times. Can we help me advance the slides, please? It's not advancing. There we go. So this is after trying to stent it, resuscitated twice, massive transfusion. So then he thought, I have no choice but to open it, which for the next 4 hours with another assistant surgeon, got some IVC tears in the process, some other problems. And, in the process, I said, at least let's put a balloon up. And, he did do that. If we can get to the next slide, please. And that's the last picture we have because she expired. So what is the learning lesson? We do a lot of things which we think are, aggressive, but in endovascular space, we take it with a grain of salt. None of these things are without problem. You can pull too hard. I pull filters out that have been in for 30 years, but that's a closed space with the IVC. This was just a pinning and pulling and a little bit of stretching. And I think what happened was that device stuck in the space created like a hinge point with the sheath. and maybe she had a weak carina of the bifurcation, and it just maybe cheese sliced it. I don't know, because in the IR suite, she was fine with anesthesia, but as soon as the device came out and we switched the sheath out, that's when everything went down. So these are tough to deal with, but hopefully for the few of the fellows, including mine, it's important to have a support structure, talk about it. I appreciate PK setting up a venue for this to really highlight my skills. It's really great. And you don't forget it, but you learn from it, and you're a little bit more honest about the stuff with your patients before you do cases, and you also maybe have that sixth sense when you're doing something, it's not moving, just stop. I don't know if I didn't pull too hard, but maybe I did. But that's it, so that's my theme for the year, I guess. Thank you.